Hello, I'm Karina Boxlink, your State 4-H Camping Coordinator. Welcome back to our outdoor cooking series. Today we are going to cook breakfast. We're going to go pretty easy today, but what we're going to do is we're going to do bacon and eggs, biscuits, and gravy. So the gravy I'm using is just a packaged gravy mix. I'm going to just cook it according to the recipe. I'm going to boil my water in one of these buckets. I've got my mix already mixed up in the other bucket. Once this boils, I'm going to pour it into my mix instead of the mix into the other boiling water. That way I'm not creating dishes in two buckets. My biscuits, I'm just going to use canned biscuits. If you have a favorite biscuit recipe you want to use, just go ahead and use that. So this is where those pie pans come in handy, cooking biscuits or other things that you don't want directly on the heat on the Dutch oven. This is a 10-inch and it fits really well down inside this 10-inch Dutch oven. It leaves a gap from the bottom. If you don't have a 10-inch Dutch oven and you still want to use this method, you can get one of those round cake cooling racks and just stick it in the bottom underneath this pie pan. You can also cook them directly in your Dutch oven. You're just really going to have to monitor your heat. So let's go ahead and pop these in here. I've already pre-greased it. And keep in mind all your food safety considerations as well, even though you're cooking outside. So I'm going to slide these in here just like you would inside in your oven. Scratch them around a bit so they'll all fit. Set this aside, and then I'm just going to set this right inside this Dutch oven. And this Dutch oven is going to create an oven effect when we put heat on the top and bottom. And you can kind of shove it down in there so it sits fairly level. Pop this back on, and then we're going to go over here and get my coals ready. Grab my shovel. I'm going to use it because I need coals underneath my Dutch oven and I need coals on top of my Dutch oven. This is where those wrist-sized pieces of wood come in really handy because they break and create these coals, whereas your bigger pieces tend to just burn and create ash. So I'm going to grab some of these coals. I'm going to set it out here so I can set my Dutch oven on it. And you'll find a lot of recipes that are specific for Dutch oven cooking, and they'll tell you a specific number of coals on top and a specific number of coals on bottom. But if you look, it's going to be roughly twice as many coals on top as it is on bottom. And this is where those legs come in to help hold your Dutch oven steady without it just resting on top of whatever your coals are, so it'll hopefully not tip over. And kind of swiggle it around a little bit. I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to grab some more coals. And even if you're cooking on charcoal, you can kind of use the same twice as much on top as on bottom generalization, or you can count out the specific coals. And try to get coals and not just ash. You may have to rearrange your campfire a little bit to get what you need. And if you get big chunks, that's okay too. All right, so we're gonna leave that there for a little bit. Here in a little while, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate the oven and the lid. That way we can even out our heat. That way if there's any hot spots in those coals, it's not burning one spot in particular. So I'm fixing to hang my water bucket so that water will get to boiling, and then we'll come back in a little bit. All right, we've got our biscuits cooking, our water heating up, we've preheated our skillet, we're fixing to start cooking our bacon. And after we get the bacon in, we'll take a look at those biscuits to see how they're doing. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get this hook out of the way. I'm using my lid lifter. I'm grabbing a hold of the lid, and be careful at this point to not just pick up your lid. Grab it and kind of shake it a little bit so those loose ashes don't fall right into your biscuits. Oh, looks like they're getting done. I'm gonna turn the lid, and then I'm gonna turn the Dutch oven, and they're cooking fast. These coals were hot. So I'm gonna scoop some of these off, and kind of the trick to cooking with a Dutch oven is keeping an eye on that heat and maintaining or controlling the temperature inside your Dutch oven. Take off any loose ones, and we're gonna let it keep cooking for a little bit. We'll be back in a bit. All right, our water was boiling. I've added it to our gravy mix. It is thickening up nicely in this pot. I'm fixing to slide it away from the heat just a little bit more, just so it doesn't get too thick or burn on the bottom. Bacon's still cooking, and in this bucket, what I've done is I've added a paper towel, because once the bacon is done, I'm going to drop it into this bucket so it'll stay warm, and then I'm going to cook my eggs right in the skillet where I cooked my bacon already. So we're going to check these biscuits again. I think they're probably about done. Shaking off the lid just so I don't get too many ashes. They're a little done on the top. They look good on the bottom, so I'm going to pull this off the heat. So something to be aware of when cooking with cast iron. Once you've got a hot Dutch oven, be careful not to set it on a surface that's really cold or wet and cold, because it can shock your Dutch oven and it will crack. So I'm just going to kind of set it to the side here. It will stay warm for quite a while just because that cast iron is heated up. So we're going to finish cooking our bacon, and then we'll be back with eggs. All right, our biscuits are done, our gravy's done, our bacon is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all this bacon out. Hopefully I won't drop any. Put it down in this bucket. That'll help get rid of some of that grease, and also keep it warm while we cook our eggs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my gloves because the skillet is hot. I'm going to slide the skillet off of the fire just a little bit so it can cool down some before I dump my eggs in there. I will probably end up draining some of this grease off because I don't want all of it in my eggs. When you're camping, be careful of where you drain that grease. You don't want to drain it around your campsite because you'll attract critters. So you can drain it into a container to save for later because it works as a great fire starter, or you can be careful and just kind of drain it on the edge of your fire and it will cook out. So we'll be back with eggs in just a minute. All right, so we're getting ready to cook our eggs. You can cook them however you like. We're gonna just scramble them today because that's quick and easy. And if you're a better egg cracker than me, more power to you. So the bacon grease acts as a kind of a non-stick agent, but as your Dutch ovens become more and more seasoned, they will be fairly non-stick, just as those divots in the cast iron get filled in with your oil. Alright, so we're going to let these cook, and we'll be back in a bit. Alright, our eggs are finishing up. And since we're out here on a campfire, we can't just turn the stove off, so we're going to slide it over here so it won't be right on the heat anymore. So everything's done, ready to go. It's almost time to eat. We'll be back in a minute.
Hello everybody, I'm Jesse Boxton, the Arkansas 4-H Outdoor Skills Instructor. I thought it was time to make my debut in this particular video. From more information on outdoor skills, camping, and cooking, stay tuned to our 4-H social media channels. Y'all have fun with these campfires.